Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Radhai Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Sandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yamunati Yavanachai Yamuna Yavanachai Yamunati Yavanachai Yamuna Yavanachai Jaya Yada Madhava Kunja Bihari Yada Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Vayadai Jaya Vayadai Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Vayadai Jaya Vayadai Yashodanandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janayanjana Yamunati Yavanachai Yamunati Yavanachai Yamunati Yavanachai Yamunati Yavanachai Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari. Shri Shri Radhagopinath Bhagavan ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subramanian ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudeva ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Nena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadhamayam Dadati Svabhadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahaganarvanadhan Vidam Dam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Perjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Badan Sahaganaleda Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Garana Sindhu Dino Jagatpatet Gopesha Gopika Kanda Hada Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gohangi Radha Vindavana Vrishabhane Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vansha Gopata Hubhyasya Kripasindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaitadaya Srivadaya Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. On behalf of ISKCON Sydney, I would like to welcome you all today to today's discussion. Today is day 2. We'll be discussing the first chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Earlier, we did start this class I think a week ago, but unfortunately, due to a few technological issues, we weren't able to fix the class up. The class kept on stopping a lot of internet issues that day. So we'll be doing this class today, this discussion today. So today, in case those who weren't here in the previous days, today, this particular day, we'll be discussing how we can practically apply the Srimad Bhagavatam based on the first chapter. So earlier on, we looked at the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam from the first chapter. Today, we'll be looking at what we can actually learn from this chapter, particularly how to study the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, I am in no ways qualified to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking the opportunity to be here today. I do understand it's New Year's Eve, everyone is stuck at home, but I do have commitments that we'll have at this time. So thank you very much for time to listen. I was reading recently Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 13, text number 23. And in this particular chapter, there is a pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. And there, one saintly person was asked many questions by Prahlad Maharaj. And when Prahlad Maharaj, as we know, he's one of the 12 Mahajans, he's very, very exalted. And when he was asked those questions, what he said is something very, very beautiful. He said, this is in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 13, text number 23. There, this saintly person says, "My dear king, although you know everything, you have posed some questions which I shall try to answer according to what I have learned by hearing from authorities. I cannot remain silent in this regard, for a personality like you is just fit to be spoken to by one who desires self-purification." So two very important take from this verse is that number one, this saintly person is saying to Prahlad Maharaj that he's speaking for his own self-purification. And the second thing he's saying is that he will repeat just what he has learned from hearing from authorities and what he has heard from them. So in the same regard, I am in no ways qualified to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is such a vast piece of literature. It's amazing. And I am in no ways qualified to speak on it. Somehow or other, please, by your courseless mercy, please bless me so I can somehow or other make this attempt to please their lordships and hopefully be of some service. So without any further ado, we will start to look at the points that we can learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, the first point that we can actually learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 4 main points that we can learn. The first thing that we can learn is that to perform any sort of devotional service, and especially to hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a time. We can't just do it any time. There's a time we should hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. The second thing that we can learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam is that we must hear from a specific type of person based on criteria. This person has to be freed from vices, and the Srimad Bhagavatam gives a very nice criteria so we can understand who we shall hear from. We can't just hear from anybody. There's a particular type of person we should hear from. The third thing we can learn is that, likewise, we have to hear from a bona fide parampara. There's a chain where we should learn. Just like in universities, there are particular bona fide universities. There are also universities that are fake, that are not, they're not authorized. So in the same regard, we have to go to an authorized parampara to learn more wisdom. The fourth thing and the final thing we can learn from this chapter is that we must inquire in a submissive way, not in a challenging way, but rather in a mood of humble pursuit to gain some knowledge. And in that regard, we must be very submissive in approaching the spiritual master in order for us to actually understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, the Srimad Bhagavatam itself is weak. It's beyond us. It's emanated from the spiritual platform. So how can we understand it? So we need the mercy of the spiritual master. So the Srimad Bhagavatam itself has many, many glories. We tried to touch a few of those glories last week. But one of the glories that the Srimad Bhagavatam has is that just by studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, one does not get bored or one does not get tired. Now, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 19, the translation says, in the translation Sages of Naimisharanya, they say to Suta Goswami that we never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. So here, the sages of Naimisharanya are saying that we never tire of hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Now, it is true that by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, because it is a transcendental scripture, we should not get tired. At the same time, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental scripture, we need to understand that our own condition is very, very conditioned. It's very, very material. And because of that, we need to learn the art of cultivating that taste of hearing. There we can see in this verse. This verse is a very, very beautiful example on how our taste for hearing should be. But this taste can't be actually experienced unless we actually learn how to cultivate it. We have to cultivate our taste before we actually can experience that taste. An example would be if you were to give a 2 or 3 year old a big book to study. We have so many books in our modern day society. I mean, you just walk into the library, you see tons and tons of books. If you give a 2 or 3 year old big book to read, that child, and very, very intelligent, he may understand what is in that book, but but he wouldn't have the taste, or wouldn't have the enthusiasm, the dedication to actually read that book or hear from it. However, as we go on towards a person who's in his 20s or 30s, by that time they would be able to read these big books, because while their wisdom may not have changed, their taste for reading, it's increased. People, as experience goes on, people become more experienced, and when they become more experienced, they actually develop more taste to hear. So in this regard, the main points of these strategies, what we need to understand is that the whole reason the Srimad Bhagavatam has taught us these lessons is so that we can actually try to develop our own taste. Now, back to the first point. So the first point that we can actually learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam is that to do any sort of activity, there is always a certain time. We can't just do anything anytime. There's always a specific time to do so many things in our material society. Right? They have office hours where we go to work. We have this prescribed hours to sleep, prescribed hours to eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, so on and so forth. There's always, some regulations, some strict time frames to do things. And similarly, we need to understand that for spiritual service matters, for things that are devotional, there is also a specific time. Now, time itself can have particular effects on a certain activity. Right? When the time is wrong, then certain activities can have particularly worse effects compared to what they were intended for. Of course, one thing we need to understand is that the devotional service that we do, for devotional service, every time was all right. I want to make this point very, very clear. We are talking about time and how the time influences activities. But what we need to understand is that for devotional service, every time was right to do devotional service. And it is actually recommended that time be done always. At the same time, it is important to understand that because our own condition is material, we are, born in this material world. We're very, very conditioned. Our nature is very, very conditioned. And because of that, our to reach to the state of devotional service, devotional service is very, very spiritual. To reach to the stage of devotional service, we have to cultivate our own mood. Our mood has to be cultivated to reach that platform. And to enhance our mood, that is when time can be taken advantage of. Similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us a lot of importance on the time specifically. If we look towards the 6th and 7th cantos, we can see that Diti was the mother of the Rakshasas, the demons, and she was the husband of Keshava Muni. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can read of that from asking for children at the wrong time from Keshava Muni, that led to some of the most devastating Rakshasas you can see in the history of the world, so to speak. Diti, the story goes that Diti went to Keshava Muni during sunset and asked to get a son. Now, there are 4 things that should not be done at sunset. The first thing is eating, second thing is sleeping, third thing is memorizing, and fourth thing is new. That was adamant. She was very, very adamant, as we know. And because of that, 2 of the most devastating Rakshasas actually took birth. There was Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and they completely wreaked havoc completely. So from this pastime, we can actually understand that time is important. We can't neglect time, and if we do, do things at the wrong time, we do get the effects. As we sow, so shall we reap. So if we do wrong things, we will get their effects. Similarly, even if we do a good thing in a very, very bad time, they won't have their own effects. But at the same time, for devotional service, we need to understand that there is no such thing as a wrong time. When we do devotional service, every time is the right to do devotional service. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 23, text number 16. There, Sukracharya, when he sees Bali Maharaj being arrested by Vamanadeva, Sukracharya actually approaches Vamanadeva. And these particular verses, they're very, very beautiful prayers from Sukracharya. Sukracharya himself is the spiritual master of the demons. And this is a very, very beautiful set of verses. I would recommend everyone read this. This verse is Canto 8, Chapter 23, text number 16. There, Sukracharya tells Vamanadeva that there may be discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing the regulative principles. And moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to time, peace, person, and paraphernalia. But then Sukracharya says something very beautiful. He says, but when your lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. This is in regards to the fire sacrifice, austerities, and there Sukracharya says that there may be a lot of things wrong. The mantras that are pronounced by the brahmanas can be wrong. The regulative principles can be wrong. There may be so many issues with time. The time can be wrong. The place can be wrong. The brahmana itself can be wrong. But there Sukracharya is saying that whenever the Lord's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. I know in almost every initiation lecture, my own spiritual master, his own as Janananda Goswami Maharaj, he quotes this verse, and he says that he does quote this verse quite frequently before the fire sacrifice starts. So there, therefore, we should understand that time cannot affect devotional service. Time cannot negatively influence devotional service so that it can become bad. But since our own consciousness is material, we are conditioned souls. Because our own consciousness is material, we have to take advantage of a particular time in order for our consciousness to change. For example, we know that there are certain times of the day where our own consciousness changes. And obviously, it is only fair that we do devotional service in a state where our consciousness is favorable. Right. For example, a common example is if I was to give some 16 rounds to chant, let's say 16 rounds to chant during 10 or 11 o'clock in the night. That won't be possible. Right? You can't chant. I mean, even people have done it, but it is very 16 rounds of the Mahamantra during nighttime. But if I was to give the same number of rounds to chant in the morning, it would be very, very easy. The reason is because this is maybe many if you have to time does affect our consciousness. It becomes much more easier to do things. So this is why in such a way there are so many regulations relating to time. Right? We wake up in the morning, we get up 3:30, 4 o'clock, go to Mangala Aarti. After Mangala Aarti, there's Guru Puja. After Guru Puja, there's Bhagavatam class. Then there's there's a lot of regulations like that. And because of that, we can actually understand that the time is very, very important. Now the question comes. I've just spent, I think, a good 10 minutes explaining why time is important for devotional service. Now the question arises, what is the best time to study the Srimad Bhagavatam? In a day, we have 24 hours. And out of that 24 hours, we may spend, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. So out of that, taking that into consideration, what is the best time to actually study the Srimad Bhagavatam? People will often ask, I shall wait for the right time to study Srimad Bhagavatam. But we need to understand that there is a perfect time to study Srimad Bhagavatam. We need to understand what that time is. So if we look to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 5, there Srimad Bhagavatam says that one day, after finishing their morning duties, by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Sudha Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters. So here, the first takeaway point we can take is that the Srimad Bhagavatam says that it makes very special emphasis on one day after finishing their morning duties. Right? It wasn't at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It wasn't at midnight. It was in the morning after finishing their morning duties. And in the first sentence of Srimad Bhagavatam, not of Srimad Bhagavatam, first sentence of the purport of this verse, there Srila Prabhupada says, morning is the best time to hold spiritual services. So morning itself is the best time to do anything devotional. Anything devotional, it's the best time to do anything spiritual, to establish a relationship with the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada himself says, he said in a lecture in London in September the 2nd, 1973, there Srila Prabhupada in a lecture, he said that by taking bath, by using soda, soap, or even soda, if soda, soap is not available, with earth or oil, there Srila Prabhupada is saying that when we use soap or soda, we are cleaning ourselves externally. At the same time, he says similarly, internal cleanliness, one must rise early in the morning. Srila Prabhupada said that one has to wake up very, very early in the morning. And there